So I came across this article on whether evangelicals would recognize the Antichrist. Okay, it's not making any claims about anything. Let's just read through it. Who is the Antichrist? I hear you asking. Let's find out. Could American evangelicals spot the Antichrist? Here are the biblical predictions. The Antichrist will be the leader of a nation that is a military superpower with the ability to trample and crush the entire earth. I wonder who that could be talking about. The Antichrist will be a man who's exceptionally arrogant and will be known for giving boastful speeches. Daniel 7:8, Revelation 13:5. I could hear his boastful speech. So as you keep your eyes peeled on for the Antichrist, be sure to keep in mind that it won't be a quiet leader who's deceitfully humble and flies under the radar. The Bible says it'll be someone who loves to give speeches where he boasts about himself. The Antichrist will be someone known for making a lot of public threats against people. As we begin to assemble the biblical prophecies, Christians on guard should be looking for a king-like figure who loves to boast about himself, but who also loves to go around roaring like a lion, quote-unquote, things like threats to his enemies and constant verbal flexing of muscle. The Antichrist will be someone obsessed with winning. Revelation 6:2, and he was bent on conquering. In addition to your king-like figure who likes to run his mouth, the Bible tells us to be on the lookout for someone obsessed with winning. Of course, most people like to win, but this figure will be different. He will be so obsessed with it that he'll probably talk about it all the time. He might even fantasize about winning so much that one gets tired of winning. In all seriousness, they probably saw people like this back then, 1,500, 2,000 years ago, who were colossal scumbags. And when the Bible says Antichrist, it's not talking about a single individual. It's talking about people who are anti-God, really. People who are opposed to the things that Jesus stood for. Antichrist was plural, not singular. And if you notice that these citations are from the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel. Those books are called apocalyptic literature. It was a style of writing, a genre, like fantasy or sci-fi. And it's extra biblical as well. It's not just a biblical style. So apocalyptic genre writing used to follow a familiar path. They would have some absolutely wild thing happen to someone, one of God's people, that the person couldn't make out or understand, made no sense at all. Goats running at the ocean and a bear coming out and eating fish or some other nonsense that didn't mean anything. They'd have this big, complicated vision, and then a messenger would come along and explain what the person had just seen. And it would explain previous events that had already taken place and how they added into a broader picture of God's people winning, successfully taking back control of their land or getting rich again or whatever other thing. It was just a genre of writing that existed at the time, nothing more, nothing less. And the book of Daniel is when that genre of writing came into its prime fully. That's when it was really perfected. The book of Revelation is another example of apocalyptic genre writing. So what we're reading here, it's not actually about a single individual. In all seriousness, there is no Antichrist coming to kill us all or whatever, deceive millions. It was plural. It was multiple people. It was just describing scumbags who are opposed to Jesus, which, is good enough for me. To be perfectly honest, you should want to live in line with Jesus' expectations, right? If you're a Christian, the Antichrist will come from among 7 tall hills that each act as a head. And I saw a beast coming out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, which stood for 7 hills. Revelation 13:1 and chapter 17. This one is another example of apocalyptic genre writing. This section you see here where it says 7 hills, that's the dead giveaway. They were talking about Rome. That's what they called it, the city on 7 hills. They weren't using apocalyptic language here, really. They were using veiled language. So anyway, this one is kind of nonsensical. This wasn't really part of it, and it's also not it's not supposed to represent the Antichrist exactly. Anyway, the author of this article argues that Trump Tower has 7 buildings. There are 7 Trump Towers with Trump's name across it. And he points out that in John's vision, he said that the 7 heads had horns on them. Some had just one, some had two, kind of like those antennas on top, those spires. And John's vision also said 7 heads all had someone's name written across them. That's pretty on point, but this is definitely just coincidence, these parts at the very least. Like I said, the other parts were describing things that would be antithetical to what Jesus would stand for, but this one is actually just coincidence. The Antichrist will be a political outsider with despicable character and a contemptuous personality who wins an election that no one expects him to win. When looking to identify the Antichrist, the Bible starts to help us with some really specific prophecies. Based on what the Bible predicts, a most likely scenario for the arrival of the Antichrist would be a candidate for president who came from the private sector, or not of royal background, being found with despicable morality, along with contemptuous personality, who campaigned on flattery and lies, but somehow went on to win an election no one expected him to win, leaving the country stunned. Like, I gotta ask, how did right-wing extremist nutcases fall for the idea that it was Obama? Like, they unironically believed that the Antichrist was Obama. Seriously. How did they buy that? That is wild. These people fall for anything. Just a reminder, I would really appreciate it if you guys checked out my Patreon. If you're not going to donate, you don't have to, but follow me there at the very least. owenmorgan.com/Patreon. Just in case something happens with the government or whatever. It would be really good if you had some way to connect with me and my content. I'm really concerned about that, and maybe you should consider that for other creators too. The Antichrist comes to power through collusion with a secret alliance who uses disinformation to help him win, even though he has a minority number of supporters. After an alliance is made with him, he will practice deception and he will go up and gain power with a small force of people. Daniel 11:23. The Antichrist's rise to power will seem like a miracle that God performed, tricking people into following Satan instead of God without even noticing. This is 2 Thessalonians 2:9. The arise and power of the lawless one will be in accordance with how Satan works. He will use all sorts of displays of power through signs and wonders that serve the lie. You know, I could argue that, like, Donald Trump allied himself with, like, all those right-wing extremist nutcases, you know? He allied himself with those, what do you call it, like, those televangelists, and they became part of his faith advisory board, and now he claims that they heal people and that they can do all kinds of insane shit, you know? Like, they work signs and wonders in his mind and in the minds of the followers. I don't know. It's kind of weird, right? As president, the Antichrist will immediately find ways to make himself and his friends richer, and he will do it in a way no president has ever done it before. I mean, do I even need to expound upon that? Once in power, the Antichrist will reveal that his heart wants to make alterations to his appointed times that are in current laws. The Antichrist will make fake news popular and will be a chronic liar. His followers will believe his delusions because they hate the truth. Jesus, like, it really is. You know why? It's because Donald Trump is completely antithetical to Jesus. Like, he does not stand for what Jesus stood for in any way, shape, or form. And it's not because of some prophecy. It's because he's a fucking scumbag, plain and simple. The Bible says it will be able to spot the Antichrist because he will give an arrogant public speech in the middle of his first term where he boasts of great things, but also uses God's name as a curse in the same speech. And there was given to him a mouth speaking of great things and blasphemous words, and he opened his mouth saying terrible things and blasphemed the name of God. Wow. Anyway, the point is that if there were an Antichrist, it would be Trump. Trump would be the Antichrist. Again, I don't believe in any of this at all. Not even a little bit. I don't believe in the Christian religion generally, but I also don't believe the Antichrist is being portrayed correctly here. It was plural, multiple Antichrists. But I gotta tell you, man, like, if I did believe in the Antichrist, Trump would definitely fit the bill. He would absolutely fit the bill. Tell me what you think in the comments.